And we're live. Oh my goodness, we knew this day would come, right? At some point, somehow, some way, you can say goodbye to MSNBC, at least as how you knew it. MSNBC making the decision to get rid of the name, to get rid of the logo, and I don't know, to get rid of some talent. They already got rid of Joy Reid. Who's next? We're going to get into all of that today. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. I'm Trish. Make sure you subscribe, like all that good stuff. It helps us over here outside the mainstream media. Look, MSNBC, I told you for a long time, was going to have its challenges. And this has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the network it has allowed itself to become. We're going to get into the reaction of some of the hosts, the expectation of who might be the next to go after, of course, Joy Reid's fate. And we're also going to talk about another big story that's going on today, and that would be one Letitia James, your favorite Letitia James, because she's getting suddenly like haunted by the feds. They're hanging out outside her door. We're going to get into Letitia James as well as everything that's happening right now in Washington, D.C., because I'll tell you, the president is pretty darn tired of the bias that's coming from the media. We're going to talk about what that has meant in terms of his negotiations with Putin. And then finally, we get Democrats returning after 2 weeks of total vacancy? They quit their jobs on the spot. Well, guess what? Guess what, guys? This is a big deal. They're back. They're back in action. So we got to get to all of that coming up. But we begin here with the news out of MSNBC. I told you this was coming. Never doubt me, right? I knew that this network was highly, highly, highly troubled. I knew when I saw what the Comcast CEO was recently saying about the network, where he was touting NBC and talking about how great it was going to be once this spinoff happened, that this was the handwriting on the wall. So they don't want to have anything to do with MSNBC. Now, this is the end of MSNBC as you knew it. What do you know? They're getting rid of the name even. The name is gone. It is no longer going to be MSNBC. They no longer have the logo. In fact, now they're actually opting for red, white, and blue. I'm like, guys, really? No more rainbow? What happened to the rainbow? They have no peacock. They have no rainbow. There's suddenly MS now, like Ms. Now, I'm sorry. Isn't it supposed to be like ma'am or what? Anyway, it's Ms. Now, MS now. MS, by the way, is a holdover from Microsoft. Back when Microsoft was putting money into the thing, they got out in 2012. They were smart, right? They got out in 2012, but somehow poor MS is stuck always being there. Let me show you guys. This is the headline that just crossed, of course, in Variety. Again, I just want to shout out to everyone. It's great to have you here. The live show is so important. What's awesome, what's really, really awesome is the fact that we're able to do this outside of the confines of the mainstream media or an MSNBC, for example. I used to work at CNBC, incidentally. I wonder what's going to happen to them. We can discuss because, CNBC, I don't know, see now? I mean, that's not really going to work for me. How about you? Now, anyway, MSNBC, this was their logo. See the pretty peacock? We got all the rainbow stuff going on. They thought they were the cat's meow until all of a sudden the ratings started really showing weakness. And their top star, allegedly commanding $25 million a year, that would be one Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow only has to do a show once a week. And even then, nobody's tuning in. And the advertisers are fleeing for the hills. So guess what? That pretty little peacock, it's going away. And dun-dun-dun, drum roll, please. Guess what? MS Now. My source, news, opinion, world, oh dear, red, white, and blue. What has happened to the progressive network that we once knew? Joe Scarborough coming on to deliver the news. That's the Morning Joe guy, who I told you has a real knack for survival. Gosh, this thing has been around, come to think of it, since, you're going back 29 years. It's been around nearly 3 decades, and they finally decided to change the name. Here's Joe Scarborough talking about it today. Let's watch together.
Breaking news as it pertains to our network. This morning, a new name for the network by the end of the year. We will become MS Now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up. I like it.
There it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty. As we go to Versant, we're going to be moving in this direction. MS Now, which I got to say, I got a call yesterday afternoon, and they're saying, we hope you're okay. We're going. I was like, what do you mean? Like, this shows we're independent. And what I've said on this show time and time again is you look at the people that are running the company, they're entrepreneurs.
It shows that no one wants anything to do with you, that Comcast is actually trying to survive with NBC News and the Peacock streaming network as a totally separate brand that has washed its hands of MSNBC. I mean, we know it washed its hands of Joy Reid. Oh, and even who was the guy with the, the mustache and the goatee that was on the weekend? Chuck Todd. I mean, they finished up with him. And so now, last man standing, Joe Scarborough's hanging in there. I mean, he's no fool. He went down to Mar-a-Lago the day after the election, right? He really got Rosie O'Donnell mad with that one. And Rachel Maddow, who shows up just once a week, just enough to collect the paycheck. I'll tell you, who's not happy about all this? Keith Olbermann. Oh, there's a name from the past, right? Keith Olbermann was one of their big original anchors. He used to have some nightly show. He was like Rachel before there was Rachel. In fact, I think he recruited Rachel. He found Rachel and plucked her out and put her on television. Oh, a lot of allegiance and loyalty she showed, right? She's still on that network. He's gone. Here's Keith saying MSNBC to change name to MS Now. No, I'm not kidding. They can change it to LESMS for all it matters. They still screwed up what I built for them. Ooh, kind of mighty high, right? Mighty. Keith Olbermann thinking that, he's the responsible person for the entire network. He did say something kind of interesting. He talked about when they had the name MSNBC that came about originally, and he was like, what is this? Like, what is MSNBC? And apparently Andy Lack, who was then running the show at that time, I later worked with Andy. I know Andy. Andy's another survivor, I guess. But Andy was running MSNBC or NBC News or whatever it was at the time and said to him, hey, no, they just agreed to give us the money and the computer terminals, so just nod and go along with it, which I can totally see Andy doing because he was very practical, right? So Andy Lack is like, just get along, go along. It's going to be MSNBC. And then the name kind of stuck. And now, well, let's just say the name is no longer sticking because you know what? They have to reinvent themselves. Like it's a new world. It's a new day. Donald Trump just won the presidency again after having been impeached multiple times. I mean, this is a new world order, right? On top of that, you've got the media getting called out over and over again and viewers fleeing for the hills. We've talked about this, you guys. You look at the cable ratings and they're down massively. Heck, even Fox is down, and that's telling you a lot because they've been the survivor, I should say, in this entire ordeal. So given that cable is plummeting, given that that is no longer really a vehicle of choice for news anymore, because what do you know? Reminder, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff right here on the Trish Regan Show. There are all these alternatives out there, and people are seeking out these alternatives because they want truth and they want transparency. And it just so happens that the MSNBCs of the world cannot actually stream for revenue. I mean, sure, they can stream. For example, we cut the cord in my house, like all 6 cable boxes. Yeah, we had a lot of cable boxes, and we cut the cord, and we've saved a ton of money. But basically, every time if you're watching cable TV, you get like an elephant commercial in the middle of it, right? Because they can't actually put commercials in. They can't because of FCC rules, et cetera. And importantly, because of, this is actually more the issue with the likes of MSNBC, they're getting paid per household, right? So you get a couple of dollars for each household from the cable companies. So why would the cable companies pay you if you're putting the content out there for free on YouTube or any other streaming network? So you understand how this industry has changed dramatically. And what's amazing to me is how this industry, including the talent in this industry, wants to blame Donald Trump all the time, right? They just blame Trump because when in doubt, you just go after Trump, you blame Trump, and that's the answer to everything. Well, I now think that a lot of this talent is going to be out of a job. We've already seen it over at CNN. I mean, Jim Acosta, Don Lemon, some of these people that were more egregious and more aggressive in their tonality. You have, of course, Stephen Colbert, who's bye over at CBS, and then at MSNBC. I mean, clearly there was no point. Joy Behar, forgive me, Freudian slip, I guess. Joy Behar is probably also going to be out. We've talked about that on The View and ABC and Whoopi Goldberg. But over on this cable network, what is the point in having someone with the vitriol that, say, a Joy Reid was spewing non-stop? I mean, Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to see it. I don't really understand who's watching, but then again, no one's watching. I showed you the ratings last week. They're up a creek without a paddle. They don't have a transition move. They're trying, and actually Joe Scarborough has put on a kind of good face, like I told you, Survivor, and he's hoping that, somehow this will mean new opportunity for them and that they'll be able to, get the financing to move in a new direction. And I still just keep coming back to this. Your business is dead, okay? Cable is dead. There's no point unless you can find some new way to craft a contract. But then again, you can't, because why would the cable companies pay for something you're offering up on YouTube? So you can't stream. You don't have the news resources of NBC News anymore. I'm really not sure what you're going to do. Meanwhile, I think, some folks, maybe over on CNBC, where they tend to be a little bit brighter, I'm just going to say this, and, maybe I have my own biases as a financial journalist, and I would just say that at least you're rooted in something as a financial journalist, where you understand the economy, you understand economics, you understand markets, and you're not as naive, and you don't fall for the same that, say, some of the political reporters fall for. So I would just say Joe Kernan, he's a smart guy. I've known him for a lot of years. I used to work with him over at CNBC. He basically let Hakeem Jeffries just have it. And I want to show you this clip because it got me thinking. I saw it and I was like, well, good for Joe. And Hakeem, you should see the look on his face. But then I thought, oh gosh, I think there might be something to this in that they're trying to figure out, even at CNBC, what their future is in light of what's going down there at MSNBC. And maybe the survivor is coming out in some of them, right? They see the handwriting on the wall. So they're like, okay, we have to report the truth. Finally, here we go.
All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems. Or, I don't know, an end of democracy or something? We just don't get it.
Right. Good for Joe. Hakeem's like, the whole time he's like saying all this. Because look, there's a lot of good stuff happening, including the fact that MSNBC is no more. You will never have to hear me say MSNBC. Well, maybe just for this show. I mean, now I'm going to have to say, what is it? MS Now? Oh, boy, that's just bad, okay? So now that we've got MS Now, the big question becomes, who's going to stay? Who's going to go? I mean, I imagine some of the talent's going to be out. And it's again, it comes back to the economics of this model. Okay, the model just doesn't work. So unless someone's got something, up their sleeve that I just haven't thought about, I go back to what cable company is going to continue to pay these insane rates. Sure, the thing will print money for a while. You can eke out a living, so to speak, but you can't be paying $25 million to one Rachel Maddow. You just can't. If that's in fact what she's getting, which is just an enormous amount for somebody who's only doing one show a week, I get it. She's the face of your network, but you cannot pay that kind of money and expect to survive. So does that mean you put more Jen Psaki's in there, like no-name people, or who's that woman that I always forget her name at 4 o'clock? She kind of looks like a wallflower. You know who I mean. Anyway, see the point? Like, in other words, if you don't have talent that is... has the wow factor or any pizzazz at all. And I'm not saying that Rachel's got a ton of pizzazz, but she's got a heck of a lot more than Jen Psaki or the woman whose name I can't remember, right? I mean, that's, in fact, where you're heading, to a model where you print money, okay, you make a little bit of money, but there's no growth opportunity. And so what happens is you have to whittle down costs, and that means you cannot afford the bigger paychecks. You're gonna have to get rid of your big stars if we consider them that. And it's happening over at The View too. And listen, they know it. They know it. You better believe they know it. Rachel Maddow knows it. Joy Behar knows it. The other one, Whoopi Goldberg, knows it. And they know that they basically are running a massive risk because they are more expensive and because they're in this changing medium. But what are they going to do? They're going to blame Trump. They blame Trump. They were doing this right ahead of the election. Oh, because they're not going to get any of that I don't know, sponsorship money through the back door, however that was coming in. I mean, PBS has ended, right, in terms of its money that it was getting from taxpayer dollars, and NPR, same sort of thing. You kind of wonder what MSNBC had working through its books along the way. Anyway, it's all cut off. And they knew this was going to happen, but yet they blame Trump, right? Not the changing industry and the reality. Oh, I guess you could blame Trump for that, right? Because you're not having any of that extra moolah coming from taxpayers. Anyway, here's Joy and Rachel all worried just before the election.
So you said recently that you thought that you, as an outspoken critic, could be a target yourself. Some people think that sounds overdramatic, but I'm right there with you. I think that he is so vindictive that he will go after, however he has to, through the IRS maybe, or even through sponsors to get us off the air maybe, or you. Yeah. How seriously should we be taking that?
Well, so I was asked, am I worried about me? And my answer was, I'm worried about all of us. I'm no more worried about me than I am worried about everybody in the country. Yeah. I think it's bad to have somebody saying, give me as much power as you can in this country so I can use it to go after other Americans. So I can use it to go after these subhuman internal enemies, and I'll destroy them. Like, that's just not a good system for anybody. And I don't think anybody's safe if that's the sort of basis on which he wants to get more power.
Well, remember when Nixon had an enemies list? That was a proud moment for a lot of people if they were on the enemies list. Maybe we need to turn it around like that.
Well, I think that if he decides that he's going to go after you or me or anybody who's well known, we have resources. We'll likely be fine. But I think there's a pattern where he picks out individual people and effectively terrorizes them. But I mean, there's Stormy Daniels wearing a bulletproof vest.
Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. Right? This is them just trying to grease the wheels because they knew it was coming. Versant, however you want to say it. I'm trying to give them a French flair because, they're not very patriotic or American, are they? Even though now it's red, white, and blue. I mean, guys, what are you trying to do? Trying to compete with Fox? For goodness sakes, we went from rainbow flags to red, white, and blue over at MSNBC because it's the end of the network as you know it. Unbelievable stuff. And we knew it was coming. I told you it was coming. And granted, I see some of you in the comments, peace of my mind, thank you for pointing out how many likes we're getting. Yes, keep liking, keep sharing, keep commenting. I would just say this. Look, yes, the network will continue on in some form of itself. But a lot of the key people there, whether it be Chuck Todd, whether it be Joy Reid, a lot of the key people have left and might still be leaving. In other words, how much money can you pay Rachel Maddow to get her to stick around to do a show once a week? I mean, you've already kind of priced yourself out of the market with her, for goodness sakes, at $25 million, if in fact that's true, because as the president's even said, that's a heck of a lot of money for one show a week. Is that really what you're doing in light of, gosh, those darn ratings, which are quite awful as well? So her ratings are sinking. I'd say, hey, you know what? Put Jen Psaki in there. She's not going to cost you that much. And the ratings can keep tanking. Maybe she can kind of learn on the job and, develop a little personality somewhere, somehow. At least she's not costing you a pretty penny, because I'm telling you, shareholders are not going to like this. Jen Psaki, however, continues to flop in the ratings. I mean, she's just doing miserably, terribly bad. This is from Free Beacon that was talking about this quite recently, losing 44% of the audience that basically Rachel had. But even then, even when Rachel comes on Monday, they're still way, way down. And she's had a lot of backlash, as this particular article points out, a lot of backlash, because it seems that she was instrumental in having covered up for one Joe Biden. So, the audience doesn't trust her. The ratings aren't there. And the entire medium of news is changing in real time. We're part of it, right? We're almost at 1 million viewers. Think about that. 1 million subscribers, I should say, right here on the Trish Regan channel. 1 million subs. I mean, it's actually truly, truly incredible. So thank you for all you guys do for that part. But I would just say that this is part of this transition. And so MSNBC is like, oh, I don't know, the Iceman when the refrigerator came. How are they going to survive? They probably can't. They probably won't. And that's okay. You know what? We call it transition. There's just a lot of industries, right, that have gone through this and more industries to come. If you want to learn more about all the changes that are happening throughout so many industries, including, I would say, the power of AI. I know it's scary and all that, but it's also incredibly powerful. Go check out my company, 76 Research, 76research.com. Some of our model portfolios are really just performing so well. And I'm so proud of this company that my friend Rob and I started. We're coming up on, I guess, maybe just over a year. Yeah, just over a year. And you look at, like, for example, our tech portfolio, which has just killed it, of course, because tech is taking on more risk, as I always point out, versus something like an income builder portfolio. But if you have time on your side, it's a good thing to do. Listen, it's a changing media environment. We are watching this in real time, and it's pretty darn incredible. Think about even the president's willingness to call out the media. It's okay, right? Like, it's a free country. You should be able to call out when you think that there's bias and be able to fight back to a certain extent. Not that you're going to tell the media what to think. Don't get me wrong. I'm for free speech all day long. And yet, you know, there's a built-in bias, and I don't entirely know why. I've worked at all the networks. I understand this bias. I've seen it my whole career. And it maybe is a holdover from, you know, Vietnam and Nixon era and all that kind of stuff, where they felt like they had to fight back against the establishment, so to speak. And then it was always fight back against Republicans and the GOP. And so now we've got obviously a lot going on vis-a-vis the Europeans and Ukraine and the European leaders having arrived at the White House today. Throughout the weekend and the build-up to this, we saw all the weekend shows really take on this idea that somehow Zelensky was going to get bullied by Trump. And Marco Rubio took issue with that. As you'll see in this next clip I want to show you, he took issue with it because, and yes, we're going to get to the Democrats in Texas because that's another big story.
No, there is concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming as back. That's not true. No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming.
February Oval Office
they're coming here tomorrow
in front of television cameras where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings we've had since then?
Oh no, I know, and I was just up in Alaska watching the one with
then.
Vladimir Putin where a red carpet rolled out.
No, but it was Zelensky. We've had more meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So, but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire
as early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one. So there's
because
some
obviously things happened during that meeting. Well, because obviously look, our goal here is not to stage some production for the world to say, oh, how dramatic, he walked out. Our goal here is to have a peace agreement, to end this war, okay? And obviously we felt, and I agreed, that there was enough progress, not a lot of progress, but enough progress made in those talks to allow us to move to the next phase. If not, we wouldn't be having Zelensky flying all the way over here. We wouldn't be having all the Europeans coming all the way over here. Now understand, and take with a grain of salt, I'm not saying we're on the verge of a peace deal, but I am saying that we saw movement, enough movement to justify a follow-up meeting with Zelensky and the Europeans, enough movement for us to dedicate even more time to this. You talk about the sanctions. Look, at the end of the day, if peace is not going to be possible here, and this is just going to continue on as a war, people will continue to die by the thousands. The president has that option to then come in and impose new sanctions. But if he did this now, the moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks. You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there, but we don't want to wind up there. We want to wind up with a peace deal that ends this war so Ukraine can go on with the rest of their lives and rebuild their country and be assured that this is never going to happen again. That's the goal here. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen if it's doable. It will require both sides to make concessions. It will require both sides to get things they're asking for. That's how these deals are made, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Well, whether the media likes it or not, Donald Trump weighing in on this, taking aim at the media, saying the fake news, will say that it is a big loss for President Trump to host so many great European leaders at our beautiful White House. Actually, it's a great honor for America. And I got to say, like, they have their bias and they're just not going to quit, right? Again, it happened over on ABC News with Martha Raddatz pushing, again, Marco Rubio, and he's fighting back big time. Like, watch this.
Can you name any concessions that Vladimir Putin made during this meeting? Have any
I wouldn't name him on your program.
Have any concessions
I wouldn't name
been
him
asked?
on your program. Why would I do that?
Where is the
Well,
pressure?
of course, because you can't have a peace agreement. No, you can't have a peace agreement unless both sides give and get. You can't have a peace agreement unless both sides make concessions. That's a fact. That's true in virtually any negotiation. If not, it's just called surrender. And neither side is going to surrender. So both sides are going to have to make concessions. So, of course, concessions were asked. But what utility would there be of me going on a program and tell you we've wagged our finger at Putin and told him you must do this and you must do that? It's only going to make it harder and less likely that they're going to agree to these things. So these negotiations, as much as everyone would love it to be a live pay-per-view event, these discussions only work best when they are conducted privately in serious negotiations in which people who have to go back and respond to constituencies, because even totalitarian governments have constituencies they have to respond to, people have to go back and defend these agreements that they make. And so, and figure out a way to explain them to people. So we need to create space for concessions to be made. But of course, concessions were asked.
So it's important to keep in mind that everybody wants to jump all over this, but the president is trying to get a deal. Okay. And like getting a deal is not always easy. And you don't actually want to publicly telegraph everything because then that puts more pressure on both sides. And yet the media is just, they got this insatiable appetite, and I get it because they're trying to predict and try and understand what the outcome may be. But Marco Rubio's point is, we're not going to tell you. Like, why should we be telling you? Because that actually jeopardizes our chances of getting something done. Again, putting more pressure on things. But it doesn't stop the media from analyzing everything. Even right down to the handshake, right? Well, the handshake. We talked about the handshake. It was a powerful handshake from President Trump. But, they're going on and on about the body language and trying to suggest that somehow when Trump welcomed him and he kind of clapped as he came towards him, that was signaling to Putin that he's the lesser dog of some sort, that Trump's there ready, willing, and able. No, it's like what you would do. It's your guest, even when it's your enemy, right? Like, it's your guest. And if anything, you want your guest to feel comfortable and at ease, especially if you're negotiating with them. This came up on CNN over the weekend. Actually, I like this host, and this particular host is more conservative than anybody else on CNN. And he's like, look, this is body language, right? Like body language that telegraphs warmth, not what the media is trying to tell you. Take a peek.
Let's begin with the clap. The clap by President Trump as Putin is approaching him. What do you make of the clap?
Michael, this is a moment. Remember, when Trump gets to that carpet there, he's waiting. He's in the authority position. By using that clap, he's taking some of the authority out of the moment, going from host into receiver. He offers a rapport and an opportunity to lighten the moment through that clap. It's followed by a smile as he puts his hand out in this very open palm gesture. It's an interesting hand move that he does in order to clap. So the clap just takes some of the intensity out of the moment.
And we showed the handshake as well, the handshake, the warm greeting between them. By the way, with regard to the clap, I hear a lot of criticism like, why would he clap for Putin? I don't have your expertise. But I took that as, it's like, hey, I'm happy you're here. Like Chris Ulrich, I'm happy you're on my show today. All right, we're going to do this.
Yeah, keep in mind when a clap moment like this, we'll see Tonight Show hosts and other folks to do this. It's like, let's get ready to do this. The handshake that follows that is a moment of opportunity for them to connect. And that handshake, Michael, lasts for 10 seconds as they build rapport. They're smiling at each other. They're making eye contact as they're looking at each other. This is a moment of rapport building and parity. And even in those moments, keep in mind, Michael, the handshake is a negotiation, an ongoing signal for power. Here, Trump shows deference, followed by pulling the hand in and using these touch gestures to reestablish dominance as they walk down, showing he's in control, he's in command.
And yet they want to make something else out of it, right? Because they always do. They have one point of view, and that is their only point of view. So it's natural that, the president's getting a little bit annoyed. There's an opportunity here for something great. God forbid Trump be the one to do it, right? They don't want that. You've got to understand the psychology of the people involved here. They just don't want him having any success. It's why, for example, I showed you this clip on Friday of the CNN anchor who's like, the consumer spending was really, not very good. And then the reporter or the economic analyst comes on and says, actually, it was great. It was great, right? Consumer spending was really good. Inflation has been kind of tame, 2.7%. It came in again at 2.7%. In other words, they're just looking for the negative clouds, if you would, and that's all that they're going to see, because that's all they're capable of seeing. Meanwhile, big news coming with Letitia James. Everyone, Letitia James, wow. She's getting, cased out, shall we say, by the feds. Letitia James got a little visit from none other than the guy who's investigating her. The DOJ has put Ed Martin in charge of investigating Letitia James, so he and a friend decided to go check out that brownstone. You know, the one in New York where she, I guess, said it was 5 levels instead of 4 levels because then you qualified for some better stuff. I want to show you the tape. Some lady caught them on video and started asking them a bunch of questions. Let's go to this. You're going to have to listen up to hear this because it was caught on a cell phone. Watch.
I'm just sure there's like the Pratt building. Is there
want me to tell you how to access my
No, I'm just asking. I'm interested because usually houses like this.
Tell me why you're here.
We're interested in the houses.
You're not interested in the houses. We know who lives here.
Is this like Second Empire?
It's just a track house. That's what all of these things are.
I know, but when was it built, do you think?
They're built before 1899.
Oh, so, okay.
Why are you being so disingenuous about what you're here for? You're not here about the houses. You're here because of who lives here. It's my neighborhood. It's my block. I have a right to know what you guys look like your official capacity.
I'm just happy to be on a block looking at a house.
That's not true. Why won't you be honest?
No, he is happy.
Well, why won't you be honest with me about what you're doing? You are acting suspicious on my block in front of my neighborhood.
I'm just looking.
And you're not telling me what you're doing. That's not true.
Interesting houses. It's an important house. So, thank you. Have a good
day.
day.
It's just like every other track house on this block that was built by developers.
Right, they're beautiful. Beautiful neighborhood.
Thank you.
I mean, do you guys call this a stoop?
What do you think?
I don't know. Is this a stoop? We didn't have stoops where I was growing up. Is this a stoop?
I want to know what you're doing.
Just checking it out.
You're not.
Okay, so that woman knows that's Letitia James's brownstone. Ed Martin, by the way, is the guy in the trench coat. He kind of walks away like Columbo or something. He's checking it out. Why is he checking it out? Because he probably wants to know, is it 4 levels? Is it 5 levels? She's in big trouble with a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, there's the case out of New York, right, that the DOJ is investigating right now. That's the case where it's being alleged that she violated Donald Trump's constitutional civil rights when she went after him the way she did. Because we know, I know, this was not about him, in her view, inflating the value of Mar-a-Lago. I mean, heck, she had it at what, 18 million? I'd buy it. Hey, we'll all team up. We'll buy it together if that's really what it was going for. She was trying to suggest that the value was one thing. He suggested it was another. And then she took him on. And the judge actually went along with it to the tune of $500 million. So that's one of the cases against her for the constitutional rights. The other is the mortgage fraud. Anyway, you remember what she did. But if you forget, there's always this.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Whoa, okay, so that was the big bite, right? I'll never forget that. So it was all about taking Trump down. And that would be a violation of his civil rights. So that's one of the cases that's being looked at right now. But the other big one is, of course, the mortgage fraud. And this is why they're paying her brownstone a visit. So there's a few things being alleged. One is that she fudged some documents in that particular brownstone that Ed Martin was taking a look at. The other is that she, again, fudged some documents in Virginia so that she could claim a house there via power of attorney was actually her primary residence instead of her vacation or a spare home that she was going to, I guess, lease out to her niece. So you can't do that, right? I mean, Adam Schiff has learned that one the hard way. You cannot actually get a lower mortgage rate by saying, well, this is going to be my primary residence. She said, oh, no, this is just a screw up. This is just a typo. This power of attorney thing happened. Like, I didn't do this deliberately, whatever. I mean, whether you did it deliberately or not, this is not good for you, Letitia, honey baby. No, 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 no. On top of that, there's one other situation with her dad's house. The dad's house that he got a mortgage on. I mean, this woman's got a pattern, shall we say. You can go all the way back to something like 1989 where she signed off as his wife. I mean, wow. So Ed is now looking into, let's just say all of it. He's actually said, look, you know, Pam Bondi put me in charge of this case. I'm looking into everything I can possibly look into. And when you have a grand jury investigation going on, that actually affords enormous leeway. Even MSNBC with its red, white, and blue logos is kind of turning on Letitia. I played you some sound last week of a guy who came on and said, listen, like they can find a lot of stuff. And so she's kind of brought this on herself. We've talked about that before. Even the media has started to turn on her. New York Magazine out of New York was like, she's made this problem herself. And on top of that, she's trying to get New York taxpayers to foot her legal bill. We're talking about a very expensive, Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's attorney nonetheless, attorney to fight back in these personal issues. I mean, the mortgage stuff, that's personal. That's not something that should be paid for by New York taxpayers. So I think her days are numbered, politically speaking, but also she's facing up to 30 years in the slammer for all of this, you guys. And these folks are not messing around, not one bit. I want to get to Texas because this is a big win for Donald Trump and GOP in Texas. But first, quick shout out for one of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show, Balance of Nature. You know how seriously I take ingredients. I've told you about this a little bit before, and it's become an even bigger deal in light of this MAHA movement, right? So important to note, because even when you're looking at supplements and vitamins and things like this, you need to look at the ingredients. And when you look at the ingredients at Balance of Nature, you're going to find only good stuff. Even for those of you who may be, gluten-free, this is your product. So only good stuff. And one of the things I love about it is that I know what you see is what you get. And I get the 31 veggie ingredients, fruits and veggies, when I take my fruits and veggies. And so it's all pure, all good stuff, none of the crazy fillers that sometimes you see in things. And that's important. It's coming to light nowadays, everything that goes into the food. So 35% off with code TRISH. Also, for a limited time, you get a fiber and spice supplement. You get that in addition. Plus, free shipping, 35% off, code word TRISH. Give them a ring at 1-800-246-8751. Again, 1-800-246-8751. You're helping yourself. You're helping this show. And it's like helping everyone, right? All around. So give them a ring or go check them out, balanceofnature.com today. So this is a big story, okay? The Democrats have been sort of acting wild. Crazy times in Texas. They just folded up. They got on a private plane, a private chartered plane. Oh, just like the Dems, right? To leave Texas and go hide out in places like Illinois or other places that would take them while they were trying to have a vote on redistricting. So rather than face the fight, right, and deal with it, they just took off. And so as a result of that, you couldn't have a quorum in Texas, which meant you couldn't have the vote. And so they've been trying, and these guys are missing. So it's become a you-know-what storm in the Abbott and also Ken Paxton. They have put out issues for their arrest. They've had, people trying to hunt them down. They're like, we're going to do civil arrest because you can't just not show up for work. On top of which, we're going to fire you because, again, you can't just not show up for work. So they've been looking into the legality of all of it. And it seems that the Democrats have finally come to their senses and they've decided to return. Here's the big headline in the New York Times today, just coming out moments ago. And you can see they're saying, well, so much for the walkout. They're actually going back, getting back to business, seemingly, theoretically. They're in Texas. You know who's going to have a problem with this? You know who's going to probably be out of a gig? Oh, this little woman who had that moment in the sun. Remember when she took on Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Ms. Greene for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's?
It's me.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
I'm trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
I had no idea what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
you just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
Voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not recognized. Ms. Crockett.
I can't hear you with your yelling.
You don't want
calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise, and then
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look, Chairman,
come and talk shit about her, y'all gonna have a problem.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Chair. Okay. Order. Chair now recognizes.
She's something. I'm looking at your comments here, and one of you is pointing out that the only reason they came back is for their paychecks. That's probably it, right? 2 weeks are up. They need the paycheck. And so they're back. Did they get to take a private plane back? That's my question. Look, they lost, okay? They lost. When you go around the country, and I've shown you some of these statistics before, guys, it's really quite shocking because the Democrats have already gerrymandered like everything, every place that you can imagine. I mean, I'm looking at some of these states. Here, I'll show you, right? Some of these states here where you have a decent amount of Republicans, and yet you get 0 seats? Like, how is that right? I mean, they've been gerrymandering up the wazoo for how long now? You look at Connecticut, 42% Republican, and yet they have 0 seats, or Vermont, smaller, 32% Republican, yet they have 0 seats. I mean, come on. Delaware, 42% Republican, and yet they have 0 seats. So there's been a lot of gerrymandering, shall we say, to go around, and it's been happening for a whole long time. So it's kind of like payback if you think about it. And Donald Trump kind of sent out the order and said, hey, listen, guys, it's really important that we win in 2026 and we keep the House. Otherwise, you know what's going to happen. They're going to impeach me again, right? This is what they do. And this whole resist movement is about taking him down, not allowing him to have success, whether it be on the economic front, on the international front, or on the border front. So they're just going to resist. Well, this is the new map that's being drawn. And so as of today, it looks like Jasmine's going to have a really hard time getting elected again. I mean, you might actually have to do something that people want. You might actually have to stand up for things that people want, like lower taxes, like an actual border, like law and order. These are the kinds of things that voters, by the way, all nationwide, remember Electoral College and the popular vote. Donald Trump had a triumphant election. And so if the Democrats don't get their act together in some way, shape, or form, if they continue to just be like resist, they're going to continue to see their brand tank. As CNN said, right, the brand itself for the Democrat Party, it's garbage. It's just garbage. They're looking at a 28% approval rating. And Peace of My Mind's pointing out that Jasmine Crockett could be their presidential candidate. It's true. Or AOC, for goodness sakes. I mean, this is where you're heading. I mean, think about what Joe Kernan was saying on CNBC, What's going to happen to CNBC, by the way, in light of all this? I kind of wonder. Are they going to be able to keep the NBC branding? I would think not. I don't think that See Now is really going to work for it, given that they have to change it all. But, you know, as Scarborough pointed out, what are you guys really? Given that you just resist and good things are happening. Why are you resisting good things?
All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems. Or, I don't know, an end of democracy or something? We just don't get it.
So, bottom line, in Texas, Jasmine Crockett is actually going to have to work for it. She's going to have a totally new district. She's all upset about it. But she's going to have to get elected because people see her as having the right solutions to things. And so that's happening there. Of course, California is going to want to retaliate with its thing and Indiana with its thing. But I would remind everyone, it was really critical for the Democrats to actually come back because they want to try and sue in court. And this is probably going to go up through the ranks. And so in order to have a leg to stand on, they couldn't actually be in total violation of the law, refusing to show up for work. But it shows you how childlike they really are and how this just resist movement is so pathetic and so wrong. Because you know what? We should all be working together, right, as a country. Two parties together. I love that you guys are here. Yes, everything has changed. Jeffrey, I'm looking at your comment right now. That's kind of funny. MSNBC no more. MSNBC is bye-bye, and we knew it would happen. We'll talk some more about it tomorrow because I think that there's more coming. Right? You're going to see more coming. I find it sort of funny that they put Scarborough out there to deliver the news. He's kind of he's the spokesperson, if you would, for the network right now. We'll see what Rachel says about all of this. Again, I think so many of them are now feeling the threat. I remind you to be invested in this great economy right now. Go to 76research.com, my company. Use code word $, so you get the report for $1 a month, $1 a month for the first 2 months. Then it goes to $9.95. You can cancel anytime. You're not even going to be out $1, okay? So if you get it the first week and you hate it, let me know. We'll give you your $1 back. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back again live tomorrow with much more news. Saying a prayer, of course, that we get some real world peace, if you would. See you soon.